am the Delta, hurting and bare. My waters thick with oil's despair. Where life once thrived in sparkling streams, now all that's left are shattered dreams. The fish are gone, the birds don't sing, the tortoise sleeps on a poisoned bed. Children fetch water dirty and grey, the joy they had now washed away. Oh, hear my cry, I'm fading away. Your greed has stolen the soul of me. Can we rebuild what once was true? Before I'm lost for good to you?
What if this video you've just seen was your community? Imagine your environment being polluted as a result of foreign companies mining your oil. Or imagine you losing your primary source of livelihood as a result of oil spillage, and now you can no longer provide for your family. Well, for us in the Niger Delta region of Nigeria, this isn't any imagination. It's an everyday reality. Every year, over 240,000 barrels of oil are being spilled in the Niger Delta environment. And to put this in perspective, this spill would cover approximately 28,000 football fields put together. So now imagine this huge contamination affecting the life of over 30 million people who depend on fishing or farming for their survival. The oil spill has led to extreme poverty, especially among the youth. And it has even cut short our average life expectancy to 41 years, which is 10 years lower than the national average. Let me tell you a story, one with not just numbers or facts, but my personal story. In 2015, after my dad lost his job, we had to go back to the village, not knowing what we would do. So now imagine our excitement when a family friend gave us a piece of land for us to farm. And for the first time in weeks, we smiled. We dreamt of planting cassava, plantain, and yam. And we dreamt of how this harvest would sustain us even up to the next farming season. But oh, were we far from the truth. After months of cultivation, the yields we got were barely enough to even sustain our family for a month. I still remember the pain of an empty stomach and the tears we all tried to hide from each other. But this story isn't just about my family, because all over the world, oil spill leads to environmental destruction. Let's take, for instance, in 2010, the Deep Horizon pipeline burst that happened at the Gulf of Mexico. Over 5 million barrels of oil were spilled into the environment, and as a result of this, it destroyed the marine lives and also livelihoods for years. Or let's take another example. In 2020, the oil spill that happened at the Ecuadorian Amazon, it led to the destruction of the environment that the indigenous people depended on for survival. So you can see that all across the world, oil spill happens, but it has the same effects. Poisoned lands, broken communities, and shattered dreams. And the youth, all the youth, they carry the heaviest burdens. They lose their future, their jobs, and also their education because their parents can no longer sustain them. I still remember a conversation I had with one of my friends. His name was Bishop. I asked Bishop, why are you doing this? Bishop works a $10 per month job. From our early school days, we all assumed that Bishop would go on to achieve great things. Then Bishop made me understand that his family could no longer sponsor his education. So because of that, he had to just do whatever he wants to survive. And then he asked me and said, how else do you expect me to survive or even make a difference in a place like Bayelsa when I'm not one of the Niger Delta militants who can just vandalize a pipeline and make some money? But this story isn't just about Bishop. It's about millions of youths whose dreams have been stolen away as a result of the oil spillage. For me, desperation led me to leave my village at the age of 15. I went to my auntie's house in Lagos with just one dream: to get a job and to support my family. So enthusiastically, in the first month there, I started applying for every job I could find. But even after a month's time, I never got a call back. So one day, while I was working in my auntie's house, I came across my cousin's CV. It was perfectly written. His name was Victor. So I picked up his CV, I applied for one more job, and guess what? I got the job. But in my first week into the job, my manager came to me and he said, "Victor." And I said, "Yes." He said, "I saw in your CV that you are computer literate. There's a task I want you to perform for me." I froze for some seconds because prior to then, I had never operated a computer. But soon after, my manager discovered the bluff, but he was rather impressed with how a 15-year-old could be this purpose driven. And then he decided to mentor me. And then I started learning digital marketing, and that began my journey into tech. But even after years, I could still hear Bishop's voice echoing in my head saying, "How else can we make a difference as youths in the Niger Delta?" And that was why I decided to start my organization, Tech for Rural. At Tech for Rural, we train youth from the Niger Delta with digital skills which they can use to speak up and become environmental advocates. Let me take you through a three-phase transformational process called the pipeline of change. Phase one, the leak. Imagine the first time you discovered the internet, when you sent your first email, or even when you discovered that you could save countless number of hours using a simple AI prompt. Our participants would also get the opportunity to experience this for the first time as they learn to operate computers. Also, through online research methodologies, our participants will be introduced into the environmental and societal impacts of oil spillage. And for the very first time, they will get to realize that the issue of oil spillage is not just limited to their community, but is actually a global one. And this should imbue in them the desire to take action in our second phase called containment. Through training in videography, video editing, digital storytelling, and public speaking, our participants will be equipped with the tools to contain their emotions and transform their life experiences into powerful advocacies. Also in this phase, for the first time, some of our participants will go into other states which have been affected as a result of oil spillage. And they'll get the opportunity to document these stories through our monthly exposure trips. And finally, they'll be able to come up with good documentary videos which will aid in our advocacy. And with this, they are ready to take action in a final phase called the spread. So just as oil spill spreads uncontrollably, this phase represents how our advocacy would also spread and create a ripple effect in our communities. So in this phase, we will equip our participants with tools which they can use to craft compelling content and also teach them on how they can reach a wider audience through an intensive digital marketing training. And finally, we would also pair our participants with other environmental NGOs where they can intern to further broaden their skills. And while our region still cries for justice, this is the Niger Delta we envision. A place of breathtaking beauty, an abundance of life, a land where fishermen return with nets full of promise, and where farmers thrive in fertile soils and bountiful harvests, and where the children play in polluted-free environments. As one Gary Matai once said, You cannot protect the environment unless you empower the people. It's time to empower the youth from the Niger Delta region to speak up and become environmental advocates and refuse to let their cries fade into darkness. Thank you very much.